Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Spring 2025 New Jersey Film Festival Filmmaker Q&A series. We have two wonderful filmmakers here who made two shorts that are amazing. Our jury loved them, and we're going to be talking to the two filmmakers for the next 25 minutes. And if you stick around at the very end, I'll share screen and show you how you can buy tickets, not just to that screening, but to all of them, and give you more information about how to navigate our website. I forgot to ask Steve how I pronounce your last name, so I want to make sure I don't butcher it and let you pronounce it for me first.
It's Weinzierl.
Weinzierl, very
Yeah.
cool. Is
So
the
it's like wine and then girl with a Z. So Weinzierl.
Weinzierl? I like that. Well, he's the director of a really amazing film called The Hollowing, and the image behind me is one of the key scenes in the film. And I have to also ask Alice to pronounce her last name for me, since I want to make sure. I think I know it, but I want to make sure I pronounce it correctly. So, what is your last name, Alice?
It's Jokela.
Jokela is very nice. And so you're the director of the wonderful film called Phantom Limb. And this Zoom is primarily to focus on films that'll be screening on Saturday, February 1st. The thing about our New Jersey Film Festival is since COVID, we've been a hybrid festival. So our films are available online for 24 hours on their show date. And there's also an in-person screening, which will be taking place. This one will take place at 7 p.m. on Saturday, February 1st. And there's an array of films that evening. And I picked Alice and Steve's film because they both deal with relationships and they're both kind of trippy films too. So I wanted to welcome you both to this program and thank you so much. We only selected 44 films out of 667 entries. So we have the same kind of ratio that Sundance has. They pick about 4% of what they get. We don't get as many as them, but we got a lot of great films. And so you should be very proud you were selected. And I guess my opening question is a very standard one. Tell us why you ended up making this film. So I start with you, Alice, ladies first. How's that?
Sure. Um, hmm. I wanted to make a movie about something that I'd been thinking about for a while, which was, I guess, female rage primarily, and wanting to, or sort of the dilemma of having a trauma that is very visible to everyone and not something that necessarily a lot of people can relate to, the loss of an arm, but something that people can see and understand is a huge trauma versus more like private or personal traumas that no one would see without talking to you and knowing you very deeply.
Right. And she's missing a part of her arm and she's hanging out with her boyfriend. I love the opening scene with the flashlight and some kind of abandoned space, some underground space. And I have that same flashlight. I used one in my own films too. I love that one. It's really bright. And I wondered, can you tell us about where you shot your film before I hand it over to Steve?
Well, I'm based in Providence, Rhode Island right now for school. And there is an underground railway that is pretty much abandoned, that my friend who actually starred in the film, Shay Yu, she actually tags in. Um, so she knew the railway system like pretty well and has actually walked to the very end of it, which I think is like
Wow.
miles long.
Wow.
And it was lucky that we shot when we did because the week afterwards we returned to the location to get some like outdoor shots
Mm.
and it was completely boarded up. So we lucked out on that. But and it's still boarded up as well. But we got in there. The air was so dense, like it was hard to even breathe. So we had to like get in there, do our shots really quickly and leave. But it was a really fun experience and one of my first experiences like shooting at like a difficult location,
Mm.
where there were a lot of moving parts. But it was really fun, a little scary, but fun.
Very cool. All right, Steve. So tell us why and how you made the following. The
Um,
Hollowing, The Hollowing.
yeah. Now the following, another great,
That's
great.
a great film. We premiered that film, the first Christopher Nolan film we showed.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It's such I love that film. Actually, one of my favorite films.
Hmm.
Not why it's called The Hollowing, but it's funny.
Hmm.
Um, So yeah, so this is very strange. So a very strange reason to why this film came to be. Um, so I'm in advertising. I'm a commercial director, so I do a lot of commercial work, and I do a lot of visual effects work. So like my job is basically, to handle live action jobs that involve a lot of visual effects.
Mm,
And a lot of my buddies and stuff have been losing their jobs to AI. And AI is sort of like this new thing that's sort of, you know, coming in and really changing things. I went to film school, so you know how much it's changed from there, and to where it is now. And there's just a lot of debate going on right now about, you know, should you embrace it? Should you hate it? I originally hated it. And it took me back to, I had a really amazing professor, who, you know, was really on me about going digital, while my other professors were not. And they were kind of like, no, it's film, it's film, it's film. You should stay in film. I was also doing photography a lot. So
mm,
it was a hard transition, but he was like, no, do digital. You'll be able to edit things. You'll have more, creative abilities than you've ever had before.
mm,
And he was right. So, I stuck with digital, and then I became sort of this multimedia director where I would, also do the editing and everything after. And that's a lot of reasons why I got into commercial work, because they like the whole beginning, middle, and end kind of director. Um, so then when this AI stuff started coming around, and I fought it for a while, and then I just was like, okay, we've got to, embrace it as a tool. And so this whole movie and this short began because we were trying an experiment. Let's see what we can get away with. Let's have AI, use AI to the best of our ability, and see what comes out of it.
mm,
So we had it write a story for us, board a story for us, do a lot of the visual effects, just like the scene that's behind you,
yeah,
Al. That yeah, all a lot of that's handled in AI with sort of technology that we've incorporated into our workflow, which does a lot of like post effects.
mm,
And that's where it began. And then it just turned into something much bigger. It turned into something where it was like, okay, great. Now I get to use, my DP that I usually work with, but with something that wasn't for a client. Got to work with, talent that usually is doing commercial work. So it opened doors there. And then it also made it possible for us to make something that I don't think we could have made if we didn't embrace the technology.
mm.
So it's sort of like it's a weird mix of an experiment, and then something that came out of it was, surprising to us, and then also just sort of like open doors for us. Like, oh wow, we can make even more stuff, and we can do even more great things. So yeah, so sorry, that's sort of a long-winded way of saying
Oh,
why
no.
we did it, but it's because, normally, because I've done shorts in the past, it's just, it's all driven on like just passion and trying to make things and do the most that you can with what you have.
Mm.
And this was a little different than that. This was sort of like experimental that turned into a passion and became something much bigger.
Very cool. Well, I mean, your film deals with a couple that is kind of dealing with a tragedy and go through a drug trial, trying to kind of patch things up. And
Yeah.
I'm going to read some of the judges' comments for your films in a little while, because that way you'll get that feedback, and then our audience will know that these films are really great and they should come and check them out. But also, Phantom Limb also features drugs too. So, I mean, it was pretty easy to put you guys together for the Zoom because I see a lot of parallels. And yet at the same time, I also wanted to say I was one of those guys that really was an old film guy. And I bought my mini DV camera. I spent 10K on this cam and set up back, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, whenever it first started. And I just didn't like it. Mini DV was crappy looking, and I was
Yeah.
an old Super 8 film guy. But then, eventually it took a while, but I warmed to digital, and now I'm in the same situation with AI. I really kind of Well, I have to deal with students who use it for their papers. So I'm looking at it from a completely different perspective rather
Yeah,
than creatively. But a
right.
lot of my filmmaker friends say it's a tool. You can use it as a tool. So I'm not there yet, but I will. So I like talking to you about that, and I think it's very helpful. But I guess, Steve, tell us why this subject matter for your film.
Um, well, so I had an idea for a TV show,
Mm,
and it was basically, you know, this couple. So it was about a couple that was struggling with tragedy,
mm,
and they were trying to figure out ways to make it work, and it turned into sort of Bonnie and Clyde, kind of like a natural born killers kind of a relationship.
mm.
Um, and so I had you know, written a couple like pilot episodes and things like that. Nothing I ever pitched. It was all just sort of in the back of my head. So that's sort of where it came from. It's just, I love the characters, so let's do something with the characters. And yeah, that's where that came from. And then yeah, the AI portion of it sort of took over from there. So it was like feeding it log lines and then trying to simplify everything that it's giving us and then going out and stretching it out. So I would say like, at the end of the day, it was like a 8 minute long script that we then stretched out and made these scenes something I think more than what it originally was. And then that just came from these ideas that I had in my head about this couple and this relationship. So yeah, it was an organic thing. It just sort of developed more and more as we went.
Mm. Well, I mean, I think the two lead actors in both of your films are really compelling. I just switched the image behind me. This is a image of the couple in Alice's film. Can you tell us about the actors? I mean, you had mentioned that you had hooked up with the female lead, and she was the one that found this space for you. But did you know her? Is it somebody you know from school or somebody from? Tell us about them.
She was actually my roommate last year when I made the film. And when I was brainstorming, I knew that I wanted to have a female lead who had some sort of post-traumatic stress about some sort of event that was sort of clouded in mystery, but I didn't know what exactly that event was going to be. And
Mm.
I actually, and I also had an idea for like the aesthetics that I wanted, but I didn't know like if she was going to be a graffiti artist. And I ended up brainstorming with her, and she told me about all this, like the culture of tagging and street art and um, like the community that she has found with that and like the lingo as well. And it ended up not making so much of an appearance in the film because I wanted the experience to be sort of mysterious, but I think it really lent itself to like the aesthetics of it. And she ended up like we held auditions, so it wasn't like I found her and I was like, this is the person that it needs to be. But I think in the back of my head, I was picturing her the entire time I was writing the script. And then when she auditioned, it just felt like perfect. Like this is like she is who I was writing. So
Where do you go to school now?
I
In
go to
Providence.
Brown. I'm in my final year.
Very cool. My nephew just graduated from there.
Oh, what?
Yeah, Nathan Nigrin. He's into biology.
Okay.
He
I,
just graduated. Yeah, he graduated in May. So I don't know how far along you are, but it's a small world. I love Providence. It's such a wonderful city, and it is got so many Gothic elements. So I think you were able
yeah.
to find quite a few of them. I love the house too. It's really a great house.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's my friend's house. There's so many beautiful locations in Providence because it's such a diverse place. Like,
And very hilly. I didn't know it was like that.
yeah. And vast, like, farmlands too. There's
Yeah.
so many different possible sets.
Yeah, I went up there with my wife to see a concert. I can't remember which one it was, but we stayed at the old Biltmore Hotel, and that also is pretty legendary. So anyway, Steve, tell us about your actors. I mean, I think the female lead is been in a number of other movies too, and is that true?
Um, no, no, she actually this is I think one of her first
Really?
ever. Yeah, she has that look though, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you may recognize her because
She's a
So
model.
yeah, she's a
Yeah.
model. So what's funny is at the same time, because we were just asking for favors um, for the film. So when I had a bunch of models, I do a lot of beauty work for like big beauty brands. So when they came in for casting, I saw her, and then I saw on her resume that she also wanted, she did some acting. And so I asked her to come in for a different part. I was like, instead of this, let's have you, I'll put you down for future, but I have no control. It's all about the agency and the client picking who the actors are. So let's have you come in for this part.
Mm.
And yeah, she came in, she auditioned, and I think I saw like so many different people, and she was by far the best. And she just had that look, right? That look of like someone that can be like, oh, look, she looks all sweet and innocent, and she can dial it up and turn it up.
Yeah.
So during auditions, I had them do some like really uncomfortable scenes to see how they handled that, and she was a pro, and she was awesome. So that was kind of a cool way of finding someone, was totally unexpected. And she was going up against all these other actors, and she was a model, and she blew it away. So I think since then, I've made sure to tell her, and I think everyone there on set and everyone who's seen the film, like, this is you. You need to dive into this even deeper.
Yeah, for sure. Tell us her
Yeah.
name.
Oh, I'm sorry. Her name is Carrie Flowers, and
Flowers,
it's,
right.
yeah, Cari Flowers.
Mm.
And I asked her, I said, "Is that a stage name?" She said, "No, it's Flowers." So
Wonderful
yeah,
name.
so yeah, wonderful name, easy to remember, and yeah, she was great, and she was alongside Joe Myers. So he was the leading male, both outstanding and both really great chemistry together.
Yeah, very, very sexy film. Both of your films have their sexy moments, and both of your films have their really not so sexy moments. And I think, that's why I like the films myself personally. I did not see them when they were being judged. I try to stay out of the judging process. I usually watch more of the longer stuff, and the short ones are usually handled by a lot of my students who are interns, and they're really picky. So, I think you guys should be really proud that your film was selected because I actually would like to read a few of the comments and let you guys ask questions to each other. For the Hollowing, I guess I should tell you the way that we score films, every film is watched in its entirety, and then there is a Google Doc that's circulated, and all of the watching is done remotely. We used to sit in a room and watch like on Friday afternoons into the evening, but then when COVID broke, everything turned remotely. And I think this worked better for us because there wasn't one person kind of uh, influencing the others that can happen in a jury. I mean, I've been doing this for 40 years, so I've seen the way that the politics of jurying works. And so now the way that it's done is remotely. And so people can watch it on their own and feedback. And then they eventually get to see what the other jurors wrote and deliberate that way online in conjunction with myself. So for the Hollowing, we had a number, I can't remember how many people watched your film, but I know at least five did. And this fellow who is a filmmaker, wrote solid film. I love the visuals and the lighting utilized. Sound design was a bit lacking at times. I do say, though, that was the most haunting kill I've ever seen in films yet. So they did extremely good with that. I kind of maybe some spoilers there. This woman who's a student wrote, love this horror film, great editing and acting. This is another filmmaking student, a well done film, love the cinematography and the lighting. This is a staff member, and I should tell you, you got a 7.5, an 8, an 8, a 9.5, and an 8. The way we judge films is that they fill in the Google Doc, and there are sections for creativity, originality, performances, quality of the production values, and they are ranked by superior, very good, good, fair, poor, or not applicable if there's no performances. So you guys scored superiors and very goods, and then you're scored from 0 to 10, with 0 being terrible and 10 being excellent. The films that usually get selected for our festival score sevens or higher on average. And I think just looking at these numbers, you're in like the 8 range. So that's really great. But this staff member wrote this. I enjoyed this film, very well made, evoked just the right amount of suspense and confusion in the viewer. This is somebody I also work with, and she gave you a 9.5. This film stuns in its cinematography and its script originality. It was just the right length, and overall, I enjoyed it. So that's the comments I got for your film, Steve. And
Okay.
now this is for Phantom Limb, and this is the same person who really liked Steve's movie that I just read her comments. And she gave you a 7.5, Alice. I really liked the story, was good, and the cinematography was good. The only issue for me was that I don't think the sound is mixed very well, making the dialogue very quiet. It's kind of a film that needs to be heard more, in that it's a beautiful poem and you want to know exactly what's being said. Um, this fellow is a student, loved the atmosphere and feeling it's able to create, and he gave you an 8. This is another fellow who watched The Hollowing. I guess all of these kids watched your movie, and the other two watched separately. Um, First of all, sound design was great. The soundtrack was captivating and kind of had me snared from the very first few seconds. I thought this experimental delving into the mental space of someone who recently lost a limb was so interesting, and was sold by the great editing and again the sound. Amazing. And then this person also liked Steve's film. I love the mix of experimental and narrative, and the cinematography with the blurring and sound mixing made this piece excellent. So
Hmm.
those are the comments that I wanted to share with you. Now, this is the time where you get to ask each other questions. So I'll let ladies first. Alice, you can ask Steve about his movie.
Sure. Um, I'm really curious about how AI aided with the visuals you said, because
Mhm.
I didn't, I feel like I don't know, I can usually tell when something is AI, and I
Yeah.
couldn't tell that anything was AI. So
Well,
I'm
that's
curious.
great. Yeah, no, that's sort of yeah, that's definitely what we were going for, right? Because yeah, you don't want the plasticky looking people with 6 fingers. Um, yeah, and that's I think where us utilizing AI kind of came in. It's like, okay, well, how can we use this professionally? How can we use this in a more of a professional setting, and what it can do now? I mean, who knows what it will be able to do in the future, but right now it's not perfect. Um, so yeah, like a lot of the scenes, so all the dream sequences, those are all AI except for the talent. There's the chamber, obviously, like when they come out of the time capsule, that's all AI. And that's because, obviously, I couldn't afford to find a cool space, so that was just shot on like a crude green screen with a tanning bed.
Huh.
Um, and then like yeah, all the sound, so like the sound effects, the music, that's all AI, and then the story. So I was actually surprised to hear one of the comments being that they enjoyed the story. I feel like me personally, I feel like this story is very kind of generic, and it's just like another episode of Black Mirror, but um at the same time, like I remember we were all so surprised when it wrote the whole like you use my toothbrush scene. Um, because I love that because I'm like that would totally tick my wife off if I used her toothbrush. And I know some people that share toothbrushes, and I've always been like, oh, that's gross. So it makes sense to me that they would have a little fight about that. So, little things like that really surprised me with AI. And then again, just being able to take it and then make it so that it's our own. It's not because if you relied just on the AI, it would be really, really bad. You know, and that's just, that's sort of, I think, going to be the case from here on out when it relates to that kind of technology.
Was the lighting done by AI? I mean, this is an image of Carrie in the movie behind me now. And did you do the lighting or did the AI do the lighting?
So that was actually shot on green screen. And then yeah, every like the environment that she's in is AI.
Mm.
And the lighting, like the color treatment that was passed over it, was originally done in AI, and then I went in and I corrected it in DaVinci just so that the grade was professional. It basically what it did was it gave me a look, and I was like, okay, I love this look. It's basically just red.
Yeah,
And I went in and I did that in DaVinci Resolve. So um, yeah, it assisted with the color, but finish happened, on our end.
very cool. All right, Steve, you can ask a question of Phantom Limb for Alice, and then
Yeah, I mean,
we'll wrap stuff up over here.
okay, great. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you actually answered part of this when you were talking about the opening scenes.
Mm.
But I love, I mean, yeah, you spoke of it too a little bit, Al. I love the look and the feel of this film. And it's because of the locations. Um, and the house, like I remember loving our house. We were like, oh,
Mm.
this is great. It's got these unique doors and things like that. Now is this just a house you found? So you said that's my friend's house on the exterior, but is that also the interior?
It's a different house,
Okay.
but again, like major props to Providence. It There are just so many amazing old houses. Um, so we had to do like a little bit of scouting to find good interiors and exteriors, like for the I think the living room was different house from the kitchen, which was different house from the exterior.
Ah,
Mm.
So there was a bit of scouting involved, but it wasn't very hard to find like great sets that we just, and I also had a production designer that came in and she's from RISD, so she like had a great eye for
yeah.
decorating well. And
Yeah,
like,
she nailed it. I mean,
yeah,
especially I love yeah, like the bathroom and it's so unique.
also
Um,
different house.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I like, and when there's things like that, like I remember we were talking before we got on, it was like, oh wait, what was Alice's film? Because I've seen so many. I was just at a film festival, so I've seen like 30 short films, and you sent me the link, and as soon as it came up, bam, I remembered, and I think that's because it was so visually stunning. I love it's like a very muted palette,
Mhm.
which I really appreciate, and very dark film. It's not, you never like are outside with like these bright sunny days, and that really captures a nice vibe.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was very much I mean the story was a huge like starting point for me, but I feel like the aesthetic evolved like pretty early on and I knew exactly what I wanted it to look like. And I was working with a director of photography who was also my colorist who just really is able to like take direction well on like what aesthetic and what color palette. So that's great to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, great.
Very cool. Well, I mean, I think, folks, you've got to come and see these movies. They're all wonderful, and it'll be taking place on February 1st, the day before Groundhog's Day. I was tempted to put it on Groundhog's Day too, but I don't know why I didn't. Anyway, I'm going to share a screen and show you how to buy tickets and stuff. Normally, let's see if this will work. All right, so this is our homepage. And the space that you're going to be showing your movies in is Voorhees Hall, which is right here. And it's a huge space that seats about 250 people. And this would have normally been where everything was. So you would have clicked on current events and then boom, you would have had a website. Now everything is kind of generated through Eventive, who is our streaming provider. So you need to absolutely push this red button, which will bounce you to our website on Eventive. And there's 5 buttons here, and these 5 buttons are really crucial. But our welcome page has basic information about how much it costs. Each program is $15, so that includes if you want to watch it online and come in person. And yes, we have some crazy people that will watch it during the day and then come in the evening and watch it with the audience on our huge screen and nice sound system. So that's $15 for that. And you keep working your way down, you get more basic information, and then there's driving directions. And if you want to come with your car, you can park in university lots that are designated for our festival audience, but you must register your car. and there's a button where you can click on the link and it'll open it up for you. And then you go back up to the top, and if you want a generic view of our schedule, is very linear, very old school. You just kind of scroll down, and each screening is separated by a red line that tells you when it's playing and at what time, and what films are playing. So you make your way here. We actually have two films on February 1st. We're showing a documentary by Anthony Wonke called The Accidental Spy, which is really great
Mm.
film about this guy who was recruited by the CIA from a Manhattan prison to infiltrate Al Qaeda. And that's going to be at 5 o'clock. But at 7 o'clock, a whole series of great shorts. Dinner at Manny's by Stephen Joseph Craig. He's from California. Disoriented. Maura Garrett's from New York. Steve's film, Help Yourself by Hedvig Anderson. He's from England. Alice's film is she's from New York, but she's based now in Providence, going to school there. And then Timur Gusenov's wonderful film Brooklyn. That is like two, three, four, six films. It's about 80 minutes worth. It's really wonderful program. So you can scroll all the way down to see all the other films, or you can go back to where it says menu, click on the welcome page again, and then click on the film guide. And the film guide gives you information about every single film. And let's see if we can find one of your films. Here's The Hollowing. So there's another picture of Carrie, and you can buy tickets straight from here, or you can go back to welcome, click on screening tickets, and all the shows pop up with little squares. And you want to buy tickets for this one, you would go here and you would click on pre-order now. If you've never come to our festival, you'll need to register. It takes about 30 seconds to do that, and then you can buy tickets that way. And the last thing I'll point out to you is that if you want to come and see everything, or more than half, you want to buy an all access pass, it's a great deal. It's $100. Normally it'd be $200 to see all the programs. So it's a really wonderful opportunity to save yourself some money. So I'm going to stop sharing screen and say thanks to you guys for hanging out with me for a half an hour.
Yeah.
And I think you're both going to be there. Is that correct? All
Yeah.
right. So there will be a Q&A at the live screening, so the audience can pepper you guys with questions instead of me. And I think it'll be a wonderful love fest, because I think I'll be 3 or 4 filmmakers there that evening. So
Great. Thanks, Al.
Thank you so
thank you
much.
so much, you guys. I really look forward to seeing your films on the big screen.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. Nice meeting you too, Alice.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Al.
All right,
You're very
guys.
welcome, you guys.